If you've ever hit pause on your marketing because client work got busy or life took over, then this episode is for you. Hello and welcome to another episode of Digital Marketing Made Simple. I'm your host, Jennie Lyon, and today I want to talk about how to reignite your marketing momentum and fill your pipeline fast, especially if you've taken a break like I have. So, as you may have noticed, I have been gone for several weeks. I took a much needed break, running this business for over 20 years now. I've never taken a break. So it was nice to really step back and take some time and hit pause. And that's exactly what I did. But I'm back. So here we go. Going to talk about how to reignite the things that I'm doing in my own business that you can do as well to fill your pipeline fast. Let's get into it. So maybe you come back and your inbox has been a little bit quiet. Maybe your email list has gone a little bit cold, or maybe your once really busy client pipeline feels a little bit tricky. And I get it because I'm there. And after 20 years of helping entrepreneurs and small business owners grow their business using marketing systems, I know sometimes we do. We just need a break. We lose momentum. Life happens. But the good news is you can get it back, and you can get it back fast. So today I want to walk you through exactly how to reignite that marketing momentum, how to rebuild your consistency and fill your pipeline again without burning out, which is what we do not want. One of the reasons I took the break, or starting completely from scratch. So whether you're listening while you're at work, or you're reading this in the blog, or you're watching the YouTube video, take a second, grab a notebook, because we're going to go through the steps you need to take to turn your marketing engine back on. So why does momentum matter? Momentum is really what keeps your marketing machine moving forward. It's kind of that invisible force that makes showing up really easy. It makes content flow naturally. It makes leads arrive in a consistent way. So, when we stop marketing, everything slows down. And this is something that for 20 years I've really, talked about and told my clients, to not stop your marketing. And then sometimes things happen where you're forced to, and it's like trying to kind of restart your engine after, your car's been sitting all winter long. So you keep like pushing on the gas over and over again, but it just sputters. And that's okay. The goal isn't to be perfect, and that's something that it's taken me a long time to realize. I am a perfectionist. I am a workaholic. And, I did that for 20 years. I really didn't realize it until I took the break about how much and how long I'd been pushing myself. And I really sat down and thought through a lot of things. And, over the 20 years, I took one break, one vacation. And that was when Eben graduated high school, and we went to the Virgin Islands. And to be honest, I planned on working while we were there, but I couldn't. The internet was not consistent enough, and I was forced to take that week off. But that's the only time I've taken off. And I really, it got to a point where I just couldn't do it anymore. It took a long time for me to burn out, but, I definitely did. So again, the goal isn't to be perfect. Once the engine does turn over, consistency, I think is what's important, and that really takes care of the rest. So instead of trying to do everything, that I've, been doing in my own life, for well beyond the 20 years, I really want to focus more on simplicity. So today I want to focus on 5 simple but really powerful steps that you can take to rebuild your visibility and get qualified leads flowing back into your business. So the first thing, and this is what I've been doing since I've been back, is really auditing, audit what's working and what's not. So, in the past when I've been working with new clients, the first thing that I usually ask is, well, what's already working for you? And, most people don't realize that you're really sitting on data gold here. So you can use whatever, tools you have. I use Google Analytics, but whatever you have, your site dashboard, whatever you want, log in and check your most visited pages, which blog posts are constantly and consistently driving the most traffic, which service pages or pages on your website are tracking, clicks, but maybe aren't converting. So for me, when I was going through, it was really evergreen content like, email marketing, social media strategies, those type of things perform really, really well month after month, even when I'm not actively promoting them. So that's where you should start, start with that type of content. That's what I'm doing now, and refresh that content, refresh the posts, the pages, add new insights, new calls to action, update the links, start there. That way you can just repurpose. So repurpose your top performing content into new formats. So maybe you have blog content that you could, transform into video content. Maybe you have newsletters that could become blogs. You get the idea. But you want to use what already resonates to rebuild that visibility faster. And then you need to step back and take a look at what's not working. If you've got content that just isn't performing, or services or whatever it is that you provide that just doesn't get clicks, then it's a good time to ask yourself why. Maybe your audience, maybe their needs have shifted. Maybe the offer is really buried, it's really buried deep on your website. So this is where a simple refresh can really transform underperforming assets into lead generators. The next step is to reignite your email list. So as I took a break from everything, and here's the truth, email is still going to be your highest converting channel, especially for entrepreneurs and small business owners. But when your list has gone cold, you don't want to panic. You can bring it back to life. A really easy way to do that. You can do like a 3-step reactivation sequence. You have like a welcome back email where you really, kind of lead from the heart, like what I'm trying to do today, to tell you guys that, sometimes, it makes sense to slow down. I'm learning that. My husband's retired, my son is finishing up his last semester of his master's program. And, it's kind of this season in my life where I need to decide what do I want to do next, so I have some fun things in my own pipeline, both personally and professionally. So the welcome back email, can be a great way to kind of let your audience know what's been happening in your business, in your life, what's new, what's coming up. I think your audience will really appreciate, being authentic in that way. You can also send out a quick win email where you're kind of delivering that value with no strings attached. So maybe you have some sort of resource or, some sort of pro tips that, they can implement right away, and then link them through to somewhere easy to download it. And then the invitation email. Once you've kind of got them re-engaged, then it's time to invite them back in. Do you want them to get on a call with you? Do you need to do an audit for them? What do you need to do? Just keep the tone really confident, but personal. If you're ready to fill your pipeline, then let's chat, that type of thing. So with that being said, if you are ready to fill your pipeline, so am I. So let's chat. And then if you want to go deeper into that, I have really great content on the website. I've written about email marketing probably a million times. I have one post that's really popular on 6 really great email sequences that will nurture your leads through to conversion. And it really breaks those 6 sequences down that really every business should have, from that welcome email all the way through to upsell. But remember, every time that you hit send, you're not just sharing content, you're really reigniting that connection with your audience. Step 3 is to build a funnel that really runs while you sleep. So luckily for me, while I did take a very extended break, a lot of my marketing is kind of on automation already. I still had hundreds of people opting into, my freebies, getting on my email list and starting to be nurtured. So that's already happening. But if your marketing feels a little bit unpredictable, one month you're really busy, the next month you're quiet, that's where automation comes in. And thankfully, I'm really glad that I automated, all of my downloads, all of my, paid products that people could purchase. That way I still had money coming in while I took, a step back. And a simple, funnel that you can put into place that will fill that pipeline consistently, that's really important. So a system that works really well is to have like a lead magnet, some sort of, offer that solves your audience's urgent problem that they can, put into play in their business immediately. So whether it's a checklist, a template, a short guide, a mini course, something like that. A landing page, you want to keep it really focused, what they'll learn, why it matters, give them that really clear call to action, get instant access to it. Thank you page, you can use that as your first upsell. So you can add a video to it or a button to, schedule a free discovery call, whatever you want them to do next. And then push them into an email sequence, have 7 emails over, the course of several weeks that educates further, provides more value, builds trust, and again, leads them towards your offer. And then you have your sales page. This is where you're inviting them to work with you, to purchase something, that type of thing. But keep the process simple, but the confidence high. And if you do need help with mapping that out, please reach out. I can definitely help with that, from just helping you map it out or auditing what you already have to ensure that you're not missing anything, to, doing the whole thing. Can help you with any part of the process. But once your funnel is in place and it's running smoothly, then you wake up to new leads every single day instead of chasing them. And those leads, will turn into paying customers over time. Step 4 is to simplify your social strategy, because let's be honest, social media itself can feel like a full-time job. And really, that's really how social media had started to feel for myself, just because I do social media for other people all day long, and then I was doing my own. And I think that, all these things contribute to burnout and really needing, time to step back. But consistency doesn't have to mean overwhelm. Something I'm learning. So start small, just focus on one platform where your clients are most active. It's usually going to be, depending on your audience, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. And then commit to just 3 high quality posts a week. That's it. So you can use this simple format that works really well. You can have an educational post where you're teaching someone something that they can apply immediately in their business or their life. So it could be something like, an example would be 3 ways to increase your email open rates in 5 minutes. Easy peasy. Connection post. This is where, you kind of show who is behind the brand. So that's what I'm doing today, so what restarting my marketing taught me about consistency, something like that. And then a promotional post, remind people how they can work with you, right? That's the whole point of, all the things we do is to serve people. So, example here would be, if you're ready to fill your pipeline with ease, here's how me and my team can help you. And, if batching is hard, this is something I tell my clients all the time, batch as much as you can, like I'm recording podcasts today and tomorrow to get myself ahead, and I'm batching all my content together. Last week, I wrote all my content. So I do have content on that as well. I have a blog on how to create a strategic social media, like monthly content plan. So I'll link to that in the show notes, where I walk you through planning like a month's worth of content in less than a day. Because remember, when it comes to social media, for most of us, it's really not about going viral. It's really about staying visible, and really staying visible to the people who need you most. And then step 5 is to optimize for conversions. Take a look at your website. It's really that silent salesperson for your business. So, it really only works if it's converting for you. So you need to step back and really ask yourself, is there a really clear call to action? For me, it's book a free consult. That's what I want everybody to do, book a consult, and it should be, front and center everywhere. And then also take a look at your testimonials, your case stories. Do those things tell a story and not just give praise? I think that's something really important. If you can, I've been asking a lot of my clients, to record video testimonials for me, because I haven't done that in a long time. I want more testimonials that really tell the story, of transformation of working together. And then also take a look on your website at your SEO and your load times. Those things are really important. Your keywords, are you still using the same keywords? Those types of things. And I've been adding in more social proof where it matters, things like case studies within certain pages, things that really speak to specific results. So again, I have a lot of content on that you can check out. Just go to the website, hit the search bar and type in whatever you need. And there are thousands of blog posts that you can choose from. But, I think the most important thing is just make it really easy for people to contact you. If someone lands on your website, make it really easy for them within just a second or two to understand how they can reach out to you. Don't make them dig for it. And if you do need help with any of the website SEO, optimizing, we do that type of work all the time as well. So if you need an audit or, anything like that, please reach out. And then last but not least is you really kind of have to track, tweak, and stay consistent. Marketing success, it isn't about like really massive overnight wins. To me, it's more about really small, consistent improvements because kind of like interest, it compounds. And at the end of each week, if you can kind of review those key metrics, then, it can be really helpful for your business. So when I say key metrics, I'm thinking like if you send out an email, look at your email open rates and your click-through rates. If you're posting on social media, what's your engagement look like? Are people sharing? Are they saving? Are they liking? Are they commenting? If it's your website, are people downloading? Are they booking a call with you? Are they, whatever that is? And then tweak. If something works, great, do more of that. If something doesn't work, learn from it and try something else. But don't be afraid to reuse what performs. Reposting a really high performing blog or a high performing TikTok video, it isn't repetitive. It's really smart. Momentum really thrives on consistency, not complexity. And you don't have to do everything yourself either. This is something where, I had gotten stuck in that as well, where a lot of times, it's just easier if I hurry and do it. I'll just do it. I'll just do it. I'll just do it. So if you're listening and you're thinking, yeah, this all sounds really great, but I don't have time to do this, or, I don't want to be like you and burn out, that's exactly what we are here for. And I have a team that helps me and they can help you as well. So whether you are, rebuilding your email funnel, you're optimizing your website, you're creating a consistent social media strategy, whatever that is that you need to do to keep your name in front of your ideal audience, we can help. So please reach out. As an entrepreneur, we wear a lot of hats. And, I'm learning, it took a long time, but I'm learning, I don't have to wear all of them all the time. So reigniting your marketing, it's not about doing more. It's about doing the right things consistently. Start small, send one email, post one story on Instagram, send out one TikTok video, refresh one of your blogs. Each of these really small sparks really add up and they will like breathe new life into your business. And of course, if you're ready to accelerate the process, you want a partner to help you map it out, audit it, implement it, and start bringing in new clients this month, then let's talk. You can always schedule a free call with myself at jennielyon.com/chat. But again, you don't have to start over. You can put these tips into play in your business and start to fill that pipeline very quickly. You just have to get started again. All right, well, that's what I have for you this week. I hope that you found it inspiring. I hope that it reminded you to take a break. It's fall. Enjoy the fall weather. Get outside. But, think about the things that you can do in your business this fall and winter to kind of put a lot of things on autopilot. Have a lot of your marketing automated so that when spring comes and summer comes, you won't feel burnt out. You'll feel like, you know what, I can step away, I can take a break, I can enjoy the great weather, and my marketing will still be doing what it needs to be doing in the background. All right, well, that's what I have for you. I'll see you next time on another episode of Digital Marketing Made Simple. See you soon.